There is something almost there is something almost instinctive about the search for a better life. May it be in whichever extent that it applies to you or me, it is in our nature, as humans and also as animals, to look and try to reach for as long as we have to in search for a better life. Migration is as old as time. It is a natural, fundamental part of life that is deeply embedded in history and the survival of all species. At the beginning of the documentary, we are introduced to a lot of people. There is this woman, apparently in her 30s or 40s, wife of a sick man who cannot work, and mother to 4 children, ranging from ages 5 to 20. In her words, obliged to fulfill the roles of both a mother and a father, singularly providing for her family and home. There's this boy, age 16, who is lying in a hospital bed. He lost an arm trying to illegally board a train, which takes him closer to the border. And then there's the men and people who drive on board these trains. Only 10 minutes in the documentary do I find the first moment that shocks me. For you see, you expect in documentaries like this to encounter heartbreaking stories about people as young as 16, already aware of the life that lies ahead of them if they stay in their country, facing a very hard choice then to make of which path to take. And maybe you even expect to hear about the struggles of walking said path. But what never fails to amaze me is how inhumane and disconnected others on the outside can be. Because you see, when you hear the people that operate the train talk about how men have tried to jump on and failed, about how these same men are then abused by the security guards to the point where as punishment they're thrown under the rails as the train is moving, losing legs or arms as this young boy. The first thing that they seem to mention is how much of an inconvenience this is. Because after these people die, they are then forced to arrive to their destination a few hours late. How exposed and how close to the death of others do you have to be in order to become that desensitized? A sense of moral or emotional disengagement sure might be a way of coping, but it is also an indication of how the value of human life can and will erode when it's not continuously affirmed by a sense of empathy or justice. Without the reminder that there is value in each and every life, do we forget? And how heartbreaking do these testimonies have to be so that we remember? Trying to choose which story to talk about is impossible. Along the documentary, there are countless stories, and the thought that each and every single one of them is real makes it even harder. We still follow the woman in the beginning, who then opens up a little more, which makes me wonder how long has it been since these people have felt true connection? When were they last heard truly? You're also introduced to a man whose condition for other people may not truly be, they may not truly grasp it, but with a little knowledge on the topic, you can notice that he has a bag of an open procedure in his stomach, and he's had it for 5 years now. He then talks about sometime considering the possibility of hopefully getting his surgery and walking out the next day to cross the border again to his sister, which then made me wonder how much pain are we willing to endure in order for things to change. He also mentions that every time immigration tried to send him back, he showed him his stomach and then plead to be left behind so that he could do better, so that he could cross the border and hopefully search for a doctor to operate. And that is the only reason he got that far. The questions really and the wonder is endless, and very few of the questions have anything that resembles an answer. However, there are topics that are somewhat deeply explained, and I would like to make some time for that as well. They mentioned that the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights representative concluded that as of 2003, the deportation procedure wasn't adequate, that the Immigration Detention Center had to provide for more and better humane conditions where people's health and dignity weren't at risk. However, as of today, the law has only changed to favor the deporter, not the deportee. In that same year, Mexican immigration was deporting, rejecting, and sending off around 145,000 Central American immigrants, and as of today, that percentage in Mexico has decreased. However, 20 years later, in the US, the authorities have reported to have deported more than 100,000 Central American immigrants, which indicates that while in Mexico the percentage has gone down, US's individual numbers continue to increase up to 22% per year. Something that I found interesting is that further in the documentary, they speak to this woman who is a federal agent, and they question her about the abuse that the police inflict on people. And she replies that she has no absolute knowledge of that ever happening. However, the next clip questions someone that is also working in the immigration center, who says that the most frequent complaints are robbery, physical abuse, and assault. And then we get a few more testimonies of people who have heard of, seen, or lived the abuse, which makes it seem that the higher that someone is on a chain of command, the less they seem to know about what's going on. And it really raises a question about institutionalized denial. How entire organizations or systems can perpetuate abuse while simultaneously creating structures where higher-ups can claim ignorance or shift the blame downwards. In such environments, those who experience or witness the abuse will feel powerless to change the situation, while those in positions of power are often shielded from the consequences, while the cycle repeats over and over again. Towards the end of the documentary, the man behind the camera goes to visit the kids and husband of the woman in the beginning. Her husband proceeds to talk about the worry and emptiness that the house is left with her gone, and then the children mention how much they miss her and how they trust that she'll make it safe to the US. Then we are told that there is of today no news of the woman. But after the hardship and sacrifices shown, I truly hope that she made it out okay. The documentary serves as a poignant reminder of the stark realities faced by those who are forced to migrate in search for a better life. Very, more often than not, at a great personal risk and enduring unspeakable hardship. The personal stories shared throughout highlight the resilience and desperation of individuals who endure physical and emotional suffering in the pursuit of survival. However, it is equally crucial to recognize the systemic dehumanization that perpetuates these injustices. The disconnect between those who wield power and those who are most affected by the system reflects a bigger, broader, troubling tendency within institutions to prioritize efficiency over empathy and security over dignity. The enduring problem is not just the abuse faced by migrants, but also the mechanisms that allow such abuse to persist unchecked. The institutionalized denial within systems of power shields those responsible for perpetuating harm, making it easier for them to ignore the suffering of others. This disconnect results in a cycle of indifference that undermines the basic recognition of human rights and dignity. To break this cycle, must we not only address the injustices faced by individuals on the ground, but also challenge the structures that allow such disregard for human life to thrive. I repeat, the enduring problem is not just the abuse that is faced by migrants, but also the institutionalized denial that talks about the stories shared throughout the highlight of resilience and desperation. Real change requires not only legal reform but a cultural shift, one that consistently reaffirms the value of each and every single life, and works to dismantle the barriers that perpetuate a system of denial. Only then can we hope to shift from a place of systemic oppression to one of true justice and compassion.